Ernest Borgnine got an Oscar in 1955 for his role as a kind butcher in Marty. But now, his daughter tells us what really happened behind that famous part. A shocking lie told by a family member, an attempt by a studio to ruin his career, and a dark secret he kept hidden for decades. There have been dangerous rivals on the set and in secret for 50 years. This is the story that has been buried. Ernest Borgnine was born in Hamden, Connecticut, on January 24, 1917. Anna and Camillo, his parents, were born and raised in Italy and brought with them a lot of culture. Count Paolo Basili, his mother's father, was a prince, which is interesting. Ernest's parents split up when he was 2 years old. 3 years ago, he and his mother moved to Italy. It was there that he learned about his family history. They went back to Connecticut in 1923, and the family got back together. They changed Ernest's last name from Borghino to Borgnine, which helped him stand out in Hollywood. Ernest loved sports, especially fighting, when he was a kid in North Haven. He never seemed interested in acting, though. He had a unique point of view because his early life was shaped by both Italian culture and working-class American life. That would later affect the parts he played. Ernest joined the U.S. Navy when he was 18 years old, in 1935. During the war, he served for 10 years. The first 6 years were on the cruiser USS Lamberton, where he worked his way up to gunner's mate first class. He left the Navy in 1941, but when the U.S. joined the war in 1942, he went back and joined again. He served in the Pacific during the war. He served his country and got many medals for it, including the Navy Good Conduct Medal and the World War II Victory Medal. He learned how to be disciplined and gained many skills that helped him in later parts, like the one he played in McHale's Navy. Being in the military not only made him who he is, but it also gave him stories and a sense of power that would show in his acting later on. Ernest went back home in 1945 when the war was over. He felt like he was stuck in his life because he worked in a plant. His mother gave him some advice one day that he didn't expect. He told her, "You love making people laugh. Take a chance and act." Ernest couldn't get the thought out of his head, even though it seemed crazy at first. In the end, he said it was like a light went on inside him. His mother saw something special in him. Even though he didn't look like a normal actor, he was big and had gap teeth. He began to change his life because she told him to keep going. So Ernest could try acting. He used the GI Bill to go to the Randall School of Drama in Hartford, Connecticut, and learn there. He only went to school for 6 months, but that was enough to learn the basics. The Trojan Women, a powerful Greek tragedy, was his first part in a school play. Because Ernest had been in the Navy, the story of war and death hit home for him. His mind was on going to Yale to study, but he picked Randall instead because he wanted to start acting right away. He quickly found work in theater after making that choice, so it paid off. Ernest's big break came in 1949 when he was cast in the play Harvey on Broadway. The story was about a man and his made-up 6-foot rabbit. He had a small part as a male nurse. Ernest took a big step forward with this small part. Putting on the play gave him a chance to work with more experienced players and learn how professional theater works. His part didn't get a lot of attention, but it helped him get ready for bigger chances. He learned how to respond to made-up things on stage, which helped him later in movies that needed him to be creative in the same way. Ernest Borgnine's rise to fame in Hollywood began in 1951, when he was cast in the movie China Corsair. Small and cheap, the movie was about smuggling and excitement on the high seas. Borgnine played a part called Hu Chang, who ran a club where people gamble. Even though not many people saw the movie, it was a big step for him. Borgnine had only worked in theater and TV before this. He worked hard that year and was in 2 more movies, The Whistle at Eaton Falls and The Mob. He was driven to make it in the movie business, as shown by these small parts. People often think of Borgnine as the bad guy because he has a bad attitude, a strong body, and a big, toothy grin. It was good for him because he had regular work, but he had to play bad guys all the time. He played many westerns and tough guys between 1951 and 1954. At that time, he was best known for his parts in The Stranger Wore a Gun and Johnny Guitar. The best role he ever played that was scary was in the 1953 movie From Here to Eternity. He played tough jail guard Sergeant Fatso Judson in that movie. He made threats against Frank Sinatra's character, Maggio, in a scene that became very famous. He said, "I'm going to cut out the heart of this wop." People will never forget his performance, which helped him get known in Hollywood. A lot of people love the show. Won 8 Oscars for it. People in Hollywood started to see him as more than just a bad guy after that. After 2 years, he got the lead part in Marty, which changed the course of his career for good. But he didn't always have it easy. He was turned down by Columbia Pictures at one point because his wife, Rhoda Keemans, was Jewish. There was still a lot of racism in Hollywood at the time this happened. Borgnine didn't give up and kept working hard, even though it was wrong. Borgnine almost had doubts about himself at one point. He once said that as he walked down 10th Avenue in New York City, he thought about whether becoming an actress was the right choice for him. "Stupid, why did you get into this business?" he asked himself. It was a hard time for him. 10th Avenue wasn't a fancy spot. It was in a bad part of town. Not at all like the glitz of Hollywood. Borgnine didn't give up, though. That choice made all the difference. He kept going. Borgnine was hired for only $5,000 in 1955 to play Marty Paletti, a kind but lonely butcher. At that time, he was best known for playing bad guys like the mean sergeant in From Here to Eternity. This job was different, though. Don't think Marty was mean or tough. He was kind and gentle. The reason Borgnine took the part was to play something other than a bad guy. That's not all. He also loved Marty. He didn't care that the pay was low. He made a choice that changed his life forever. Everything fell into place when Borgnine tried out for Marty. The date was August 12, 1954. The writer and director of the movie were in the room, ready to see if he could bring Marty to life. Borgnine played a part in which Marty complains about not being liked or loved. Because he had been rejected himself, he put his whole heart into it. The room was quiet when he was done. Both the director and the writer were crying. One of them even said, "There you have your Marty." It was a strong moment. That set the tone for the whole movie. The way Borgnine played the part was so honest and open that it made everyone believe in him. Marty wasn't meant to be a big deal. The movie was made so that the people who made it could save money on taxes. They were going to make a cheap movie, show it just once, and then call it a loss. But when they were done and showed it to people, the response was amazing. A lot of people loved it. The movie made over $2 million, even though it only cost $343,000 to make. No one saw it coming, but it turned out to be a big hit. It only took 18 days to make the movie, which is very short for a movie. To make it seem real, they shot for 7 days in the Bronx. The rest of the work was done in Hollywood. Everybody had to work fast, and most scenes were only filmed once or twice. Even though they were in a hurry, the movie felt honest and sincere, like it was based on a real event. A big part of why people loved it so much was its simple, honest style. Everyone liked Marty when he came out. The Palme d'Or Award at the Cannes Film Festival went to it. That was the first time an American movie had that honor. After that, it was nominated for 8 Oscars, and Borgnine won Best Actor on the big night in 1956. No one was ready for it. Even though he was up against James Dean and Spencer Tracy, the crowd went wild when his name was called. Borgnine thanked everyone who believed in him in a short speech that made him cry. His win showed that to make people feel something, you don't have to look like a normal movie star. Ernest Borgnine's role in Marty changed his life and Hollywood as a whole. It showed that people wanted stories about real people they could relate to. It turned out that his $5,000 pay was one of the best deals in movie history. The movie took home 4 Oscars, including Best Picture, and will always be one of the best. One thing was wrong, though. Now everyone saw Borgnine as Marty, the quiet and kind butcher. He was given 637 scripts in just 18 months, and almost all of them were for people like Marty. Borgnine chose not to take most of these roles because he didn't want to keep playing the same kind of part. He was trying to show that he could play a lot of different roles. In 1956, he played a tough sergeant in Jubal, which was a very different part. This was the exact opposite of what Marty said. He lost a lot of money by turning down parts that could have made him millions of dollars. But turning down so many roles slowed down his career. He still thought it was the right choice. By 1958, he had parts in movies like The Vikings and The Badlanders that showed he could do a lot more. That year, 1962, Borgnine's job needed a change. He was getting fewer movie parts, so he tried his luck on TV. This led to the show McHale's Navy, which changed his life. Things were going to be serious with the show at first, but the network changed their minds and made it a comedy. Borgnine agreed because it was a new thing for him to do. It began in 1962 and quickly became a big hit. People loved him as Lieutenant Commander McHale because he was smart and funny. There were 4 years of the show. It was so good that Borgnine was nominated for an Emmy. During this time, he also appeared in movies like The Flight of the Phoenix, which showed that he could do well in both TV and movies. Borgnine didn't want to do TV at first. At that time, TV wasn't seen as a good place for someone who had won an Oscar to work. He thought of himself as a movie performer. From 1957 to 1961, he turned down a lot of TV jobs. Some were made for shows that became very famous, like The Untouchables. He laughed and said he'd rather sell used cars than be on a TV show. But one day, a kid selling candy showed up at his house and didn't know who Borgnine was. The kid got excited and said yes when Borgnine asked if he knew Gunsmoke actor James Ernest Borgnine saw how strong TV was after that. He changed his mind and asked his agent to find him a part on TV. This choice caused McHale's Navy. It worked out really well for McHale's Navy. Every week, millions of people watched, and Borgnine became a TV star. People loved the show so much that it led to 2 movies where Borgnine played McHale again. Borgnine's success was better than ever after the show. He got more parts in movies and TV shows after it was over. As an actor, he was in 27 movies and 18 TV shows between 1966 and 1975. He was thought to be a flexible actor who could play both comedic and serious roles. Ernest Borgnine's big break came in 1967 when he played Major General Sam Warden in The Dirty Dozen. He was 50 years old at the time and wanted to try something new in Hollywood. It made $45.3 million in the US, which is a lot of money. People really liked how real and strong Borgnine made the general he played seem. The director, Robert Aldrich, called Borgnine and offered to make the part bigger. At first, Borgnine didn't want the part because he thought it was too small. Borgnine finally agreed, and it was a good choice. Borgnine did his own tricks on set, like jumping off of a moving Jeep, which was very dangerous. He was hurt, but that didn't stop him. Because the movie did so well, Borgnine came back into the public eye. He even came back as General Wardens in 3 TV movies that came out years later. Of the original group, Borgnine was the only one who was in all of them, which brought him new fans. However, this part also showed that Borgnine could play different kinds of people, not just tough guys. With the Poseidon Adventure in 1972, Borgnine's fame grew even more. He was 55 years old and wanted to show that he could play different parts. The movie was a big hit all over the world, making over $125 million and becoming 1973's highest-grossing movie. Borgnine played Mike Rogo, a grumpy but brave police officer who was trying to stay alive on a ship that was sinking. Both audiences and reviewers loved what he did. It wasn't easy to get the part. It was first offered to George C. Scott, but he turned it down. It took a lot of work for Borgnine to show that he was the best choice. He even agreed to take a screen test. He got the part only 2 weeks before shooting began. Borgnine did a lot of his own moves on set, like swimming through a swimming pool. He almost drowned when his foot got stuck in a scene. He got away, though, and made the shot. Everyone had a hard time on set, working long hours and getting hurt. But Borgnine kept things fun. In between takes, he told jokes and set up card games. He was nominated for a Golden Globe for the part, which helped him get more big parts. Also, disaster movies became popular after this movie, and Borgnine was a favorite for them. Many people talked a lot about how bad things were between Borgnine and his co-star, Shelley Winters, during the Poseidon journey. They didn't get along from the first day. Borgnine, who was 3 years older than Winters, played a grandmother who was much older than she was, which made Winters mad. It got worse during a scene that took place underwater. Borgnine kept worried that Winters wouldn't be able to hold her breath long enough, even though she worked hard to get ready. He got into a fight with the director over it too. Winters thought Borgnine was trying to ruin her act, so they didn't talk to each other in front of the camera for weeks. The team heard them arguing a lot, but they both behaved properly when the cameras were rolling. People liked how they played their parts, and their figures got along well with each other. After many years, Borgnine wrote in his book that he and Winters got along again after the movie. He said they didn't like each other while they were shooting, but they admired each other's work. Everyone was shocked when Borgnine became a voice actress for SpongeBob SquarePants later in life. Mermaid Man is an old character that he played with his old co-star Tim Conway, who voiced Barnacle Boy. He was 82 years old. Steven Hillenburg, who made the show, wrote the part just for him. It took Borgnine a while to decide to do a cartoon, but after reading the story, he did it. His deep voice was perfect for the part. When his voice cracked, he said one of his most famous lines, "Evil," while the recording. The people who made the show thought it was funny, so they kept it. Borgnine did the voice of Mermaid Man in 17 shows over 13 years. It was only a few months before he died, in 2012, at the age of 95. Borgnine loved that kids knew him as Mermaid Man. It made him feel like a hero to a new generation, he said. Life in general for Ernest Borgnine was full of ups and downs. He was married 5 times in 60 years, but his marriage to Broadway star Ethel Merman in 1964 was the most well-known. After meeting and falling in love, Borgnine asked her to marry him just 4 weeks later. Their wedding was on June 27, 1964, and 500 people came, including a lot of Hollywood stars. The marriage didn't last, though. They broke up on August 7th, after only 32 days together. By November 18th, they were no longer married. There was a lot of talk about how short their marriage was. Her book was full of jokes about their marriage. A part called My Marriage to Ernest Borgnine was in it. The page was empty, though. Borgnine said that they didn't get along with each other, and things got worse while they were on their honeymoon in Europe. Merman got angry when fans kept noticing him and asking for autographs, he said. She got mad about this, and they fought a lot. There is a story that Borgnine pulled a joke on her while they were on their honeymoon, but it may not be true. This made things even more dramatic. The end of their marriage was a big event. She asked for a divorce on August 21st, 1964, saying that Borgnine had been mean to her. But Borgnine didn't agree and said Merman had left him. In court, they argued about who was right and who should keep gifts, like Merman's pricey promise ring. For months, they fought, but on November 18th, the divorce was completed. Borgnine had to pay Merman's lawyer fees. It was over with their marriage, but the drama around it went on for a long time. Having been married 4 times before, Borgnine finally found happiness with Tove Tresnes, his 5th wife. In 1972, friends set them up on a blind date, which is how they met. They liked each other right away, even though Borgnine was 55 and Tove was 31. They got married in Las Vegas on February 24, 1973, in a small wedding. He had been married before, but this one was different. With her own successful makeup company called Beauty by Tove, Tove was able to stay on her own. Borgnine helped her with her work, and she helped him with his acting job. Love and friendship led to their marriage. They worked very hard on their jobs, but they always had time for each other. They told Borgnine that the key to their happiness was to stay close as a couple while still giving each other room. They were together for 39 years, until Borgnine died in 2012 at the age of 95. Over the years, he often said that he wished he had met Tove sooner because she made him truly happy. Borgnine's success was also marked by fights with directors and co-stars. On the set of The Wild Bunch, 1969, he got into a fight with William Holden because Borgnine thought Holden's drinking was getting in the way of the work. They almost got physical during their fight. Crowe had tense encounters with Lee Marvin on the set of The Dirty Dozen, 1967. Marvin often drank too much and made trouble on set. Marvin even dared Borgnine to a fight one night, but Borgnine calmed things down without using violence. He also had trouble with directors at times. Borgnine wanted to change a scene while working on The Catered Affair, 1956, which made director Richard Brooks angry at first. But Brooks later agreed with Borgnine's thoughts in front of the whole crew, showing that Borgnine's gut feelings could earn him respect, even when things were tense. Borgnine's acting style was delightfully easygoing. He reportedly said, "No Stanislavski," which was a reference to the complicated acting styles that were popular in Hollywood at the time. He didn't give his characters long, complicated pasts. Instead, he relied on gut feelings and honesty. He thought acting was about using your ideas and drawing from real-life events of people. In a talk at the Yale School of Drama, Borgnine told the students that playing was like talking to someone. Some of his friends didn't understand this simple method, but it worked well for him. Borgnine said that acting kept his mind sharp and made him feel young, so he didn't think too much about his parts. He was able to play a lot of different roles thanks to his natural acting style. From the nice and gentle Marty to the mean and fat Judson in From Here to Eternity. As the 1970s and 1980s went on, Ernest Borgnine's life changed a lot. He stopped getting movie parts. This could have been the end for a lot of artists, but for Borgnine, it was the beginning of something new. He got a second chance, and his career was saved by TV. He was getting fewer and fewer parts in movies, but TV was happy to have him. He had a small part in the movie Escape from New York in 1981, but he also acted in 3 TV movies and was on 5 TV shows that same year. This pattern kept going. In general, he was only in 1 movie a year, but he worked on a lot of TV shows every year. In 1984, things really got better. When Borgnine, who was 67 at the time, was hired to play Dominic Santini on the action TV show Airwolf. He gained a new group of fans because of the part. People who had not seen his earlier work began to remember him. Also, something strange happened. Because of Airwolf, more people rented and bought his old movies by 27%. Borgnine really enjoyed working in TV. He once said that being on TV felt more personal than being in a movie. He said that on TV, you're in people's homes every week. They trust you after getting to know you. It was a strange view for an Oscar-winning actor to have, but it showed how much he cared about connecting with his fans. Borgnine made history in 2009. He was up for an Emmy for his guest spot on ER even though he is 92 years old. He played a man whose wife was dying in the hospital in the show. His performance was short, 12 minutes, but very powerful. It was quiet and full of deep feeling. Borgnine had turned down the part at first. He joked that he was too old to hang out in ERs, but he couldn't say no after reading the story. Hollywood was shocked by the nod. A lot of the younger players didn't even know Borgnine was still working. Older actors didn't get many big parts, which was also made clear. In 2010, a study found that only 11% of TV parts went to actors over 60. This made Borgnine's success at age 92 go even further. Borgnine never slowed down, even as he aged. In 2010, when he was 93 years old, he was in the movie Red with Bruce Willis, Helen Mirren, and other big names. He was still doing the voice of Mermaid Man on SpongeBob SquarePants around the same time. He loved that part until he died. Aside from that, he kept starring in movies like Another Harvest Moon and The Man Who Shook the Hand of Vicente Fernandez. Borgnine often made jokes about how little people thought of him. Would you please tell them if he is still alive? But he always showed them they were wrong. Borgnine won the Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award in 2011. He was 94 years old at the time. This award recognized his amazing 60-year career and his work to help others. Borgnine gave a humble speech in which he said, "We are a lucky few who have been chosen to work in this entertainment field." He won an Oscar for his part in Marty, and the ceremony showed clips from that movie and his funny role in Mikhail's Navy. It was a great way to recognize all that he had done. Borgnine kept busy even in his last few months. We talked to him at length at a fan gathering in May 2012, just 2 months before he died. Funny and touching stories about working with greats like Frank Sinatra and Betty Davis were told by him. He last went out in public in April 2012 to support his last movie, The Man Who Shook the Hand of Vicente Fernandez. He was still full of the charm and energy that made him famous at age 95. Ernest Borgnine died on July 8, 2012, from bad kidneys. He was 95 years old. His wife and kids were all around him. He was one of the last Hollywood stars from the Golden Age, so his death marked the end of an era. Lots of tributes came in from all over the world. Freeman said he was a good friend and a great actress. Tim Conway, who played him in Mikhail's Navy, said that he was one of the most honest people he had ever met. Even the U.S. Navy, where Borgnine had been a member for 10 years, paid tribute to him with a touching message.